burn it basically in a vacuum, and then you measure a radioactive isotope.
Right, of carbon, right. And so they found actually that the trees are sometimes older than 1,000 years old. And Southeast Asia, some of these trees, 1,500, 2,000 years old, just as old as some of the big trees in the Northwest.
Right. If you're biblical, it's the days of Jesus. I mean, that's
they were surprised, but I'm not surprised. I mean, these trees are enormous, 120 feet tall.
What are some of the other woods we have here?
This is Ipe. That's actually a piece of the High Line.
This is a piece of the High Line. Oh, I love the High Line, and I was so sad that beautiful High Line was built out of rainforest wood. So I would have hoped that the Friends of the High Line would have done more research.
We would have hoped that as well.
The High Line is the park that used to be a train, an elevated train on the west side of Manhattan, but starting around 14th Street and running up and down 11th Avenue, and it's really sad. You guys hung a banner over there?
We did. We held a banner. We didn't actually hang it, but we were actually the banner action. We were protesting the Forest Stewardship Council's continuing to do certifications or to credit certifiers to certify logging in old-growth forests, and the High Line is a great example of that. Where they've gone ahead and they turned around and put on their website that the wood was certified as well managed by the Forest Stewardship Council.
Oh.
And there's a lot of problems with the so-called FSC with their certifications, number one, but number two, they went ahead and put well managed on the website, but then Robert Hammond in a number of cases, I caught him using the word sustainable.
Who's Robert Hammond?
He's the executive director of the Friends of the High Line.
And what is this again? What is the name of this wood? Ipe. And this is what a lot of the High Line and a lot of other things are being built with in New York.
All New York City's boardwalks were converted to this wood.
This tree could be 1,000 years old.
I would actually expect the Ipe trees to be older than that. The density of this wood is incredible.
Wow.
This wood will sink if you put it in water. It's so dense.
It's so heavy. It doesn't float.
Yeah. And you can see just how kind of a clue as to the density, but also the heft of it is amazing.
It's a hefty block of wood.
So here's however, a piece of domestic hardwood.
Okay.
This is a wood called black locust. It was discovered in the discovered by Europeans, growing in a couple of pockets in the southern Ozarks in the 1500s, early 1600s, and became very popular for farmers because they realized that this wood in ground contact would last 60 to 90 years.
I see.
So the farmers started planting it on their farms to grow their own fence posts, in effect, and they would mill this wood into fence posts. It's still popular today as fence posts, but from the 1800s, 1700s, 1800s. Into even the early 1900s, this wood was very popular for things like telegraph poles, insulator pins on the telegraph poles, wagon wheel hubs early on, very, very dense, impact-resistant wood, tool handles, but also extremely durable in the outdoors. So much so that in the mid-1600s, this tree was transplanted to Europe, where there are now thousands of acres of plantations of black locust there.
Is this you're saying that this is an alternative?
This is absolutely an alternative, and we have finally convinced New York City, I think, Central Park Conservancy uses a little bit of black locust in Central Park.
So there's some hope in this.
There's a little bit of hope. New York City Parks Department has started to make some changes, but we're very, very disappointed with what happened on the High Line. Extremely disappointed by all these public benefit corporations building New York City parks and going ahead and ignoring Parks Department's new policy of avoiding tropical hardwoods.
So like some of these conservancies.
Hudson River Park Conservancy, Stuyvesant Cove Park, which is actually not a public benefit corporation. Still putting in Ipe benches, Washington Square Park,
Ipe benches at Tompkins Square Park. Folks, I know a lot of friends of mine from Tompkins Square Park are watching the show. They watch it religiously every week.
And
listen.
And the Battery is full of rainforest wood. In fact, Hudson River Park, the Battery and the Battery Park City, if you walk from Hudson River Park all the way down to the Battery, you will encounter more rainforest wood than if you were walking through Panama. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Really, really, everything that you see, just about every stick of wood that you see is tropical hardwood.
Okay, Tim Keating from the Rainforest.
Now,
Rainforest Relief.
Relief.
Rainforest
Yes.
Relief.
And that's,
what's your website?
Yeah, it's www.rainforestrelief.org.
Okay, and what do we have here?
This is actually a piece of recycled plastic lumber. Now, this is a structural recycled plastic lumber, which basically means it can take large loads, heavy loads.
What's it made out of?
It's made out of high-density polyethylene.
Is it recycled for something, or is it made
Yeah, it's
directly?
100% post-consumer, high-density polyethylene. Basically, your milk jugs and
milk jugs and things like that. Oh, let's
detergent bottles.
show folks this. Wow. So, and it's pretty heavy.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, people
all right.
say aesthetically, oh, it's just horrible, but you know, I don't think so. I mean, we thought glass buildings were horrible for 6 decades after structural glass came into being. This will actually, the scientists that invented it suggest it will last at least 100 years. 200 years is likely, but 100 years is probably a minimum.
That's really the best. I mean, when maybe they could even think of ways of putting like a sheen on it, or just putting like.
Well, you know, the irony here is that New York City Parks Department now is actually starting to use quite a large amount of it. Let me show you a couple of these shots. This is actually the pier in Coney Island.
Right.
Now,
sure,
at the foot of the pier, this is actually recycled plastic lumber, structural plastic lumber going down on top of concrete, and you know, from a few feet away, who could tell the difference there between that and the wood? And certainly between that and the rotting wood. Well, let's use this example there, or on the decking of the Brooklyn Bridge.
Now, what's the decking of the Brooklyn Bridge?
That's a wood called Greenheart, logged from Guyana.
Guyana, wow.
In South America, yeah.
Oh, wow. So the city loves these woods because they last a long time. You get a big buck for them.
Right, but now the plastic lumber will last far, far longer than even the tropical hardwoods.
Right.
And you know, it really has just been an aesthetic issue for the most part. We have provided Parks Department with information on the structural aspect of using these materials. Basically engineers have been very loath to make a switch to these materials. But here's a Parks Department using plastic lumber on those benches in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And really, I think they look way better than the tropical hardwood benches. Maybe not the day you put the tropical hardwood in, but 6 weeks later when the tropical hardwoods have grayed out, and certainly 3 to 4 years later when you start to get some checking and
All right,
whatnot.
Tim Keating, tell me about what your action is on Thursday, this coming Thursday, day after tomorrow.
Yes, we're having a funeral procession, as I said, through Washington Square Park with Reverend Billy. He's going to do. The animals are going to be mourning the loss of their forest, and the Reverend is going to lead the procession through the park, and then we're going to have some choice words to say about the mayor and in my opinion, the failure of the tropical hardwood reduction plan to actually address the problem.
And where can folks get more information?
Our campaign website is rainforestofnewyork.net.
So rainforest of
New York.net. And certainly folks can email me at info@rainforestrelief.org. There's also more information up on Reverend Billy's website now for that action.
Right, right, okay. And he's running for mayor, I guess, on one of his platforms is to stop the use of rainforest.
Yes.
He's running for the Green Party.
Yes.
So I imagine that's
yes. But so many other issues in the city that really
we can only focus on one at a time.
Yeah.
And I know there's so many. The schools, there's the police brutality thing.
Yeah.
We could deal, and we do at different times deal with that. I'm glad we're taking an opportunity to deal with this issue because this might get lost in the sauce. And yes, yet it's an important issue because we only have a minute and a half, but you're impacting not just on, and it's bad enough that you're in this day of global warming that we're impacting on these old growth forests, But people live in these forests and have lived in sustained cultures. We're wrecking their culture with their lives. We're in a society, in a city that takes pride in its diversity, and here we're sitting on pieces of wood that are taking a chunk out of people's lives.
And not only that, the 25 to 30% of human-caused greenhouse gas emissions are coming from deforestation.